A wise man once said that success is stumbling from failure to failure with no loss of enthusiasm.
This is a World Trade Center bomb.
I keep coming back to this quote because all of my success is the result of every single failure. And I think the reason I'm so privileged to look at things that way is because my attitude is one of focus and determination. I've never let failure discourage me. I've only ever let it fuel my endeavors. I say all this to say that I didn't get here by being perfect. I got here by quite the opposite, actually, by being imperfect and working towards progress. If you watched the last video, then you know I was working on a $2 million startup. And I'm here to proudly announce that that shit crashed and burned. I've actually been debating with myself on how much of the story I'd want to tell you guys. However, I recently remembered that I never signed an NDA. So here goes nothing. The idea for this startup began with an ask. Something relatively simple. Build a better version of a tool that our client is already using. The tool's only job was to ingest payroll data and spit out reports related to diversity and inclusion. Seems simple enough, right? Well, let me teach you a little key word here. Scope. This is essentially the extent of the area or subject matter that something deals with or to which it is relevant. Now, when working on a project, an engineer's worst nightmare is something called scope creep. This is when a project's scope, or the boundaries of what it needs to be completed, changes after the project has already begun. This can include adding new tasks, goals, or requirements, or changing the budget, timeline, or resources. In extreme cases, this issue can cause death of the company, not the engineer. And it is essentially what happened to us. What started out as a small ask to remake an existing tool spiraled into a never-ending pit of new requests without any consideration for feasibility. All of a sudden, we found ourselves building what appeared to be an enterprise-level application designed for the use of multiple corporate entities. I don't know about you, but that's pretty daunting. But I'm fearless and ambitious, so that isn't quite what scared me away. There are 3 principles that I refuse to abandon when I do business. The first is that growth without purpose is a cancer. The second is that you should never sell your soul to investors. And the third is to never make a promise you can't keep. As time went on, I kept seeing these principles get trampled. Everyone seemed more interested in creating a money printing machine rather than actually building something useful and impactful. The involvement of investor money is really what did us in, though. Let me give you a high-level overview. Our startup took on a client which asked us to build a tool. The client went and found investors who were interested in said tool and decided to add more and more features to make it more valuable and easier to sell to said investors, without actually consulting us, with the expectation being that we'd just build whatever they asked us to. Now the problem with that is that we hadn't actually nailed down what payment for these services rendered would be, but we did have conversations regarding equity, basically how much of this thing we'll own in the end. And it turns out that neither the client or the investors seemed keen on giving us very much in the way of payment or equity. We'd be looking at significantly less than 40%. In fact, they wanted to cherry pick which members of our team would even receive the equity rather than dealing with us as an entire entity. And none of this really sat well with me. The straw that broke the camel's back was really them asking us to finish building an entire product before October so that it could be used on a project by the city of Milwaukee. That sounds cool and all, but it was already August and we still didn't have answers to the plethora of questions we had around the features they wanted us to build and expectations around the user experience. So in the end, I decided to walk away. I felt like too many conversations were being had without me present, and too much work was being expected of me without any real conversations around compensation. But I'm not giving up on starting a business. In fact, I just realized that I've had the perfect one this entire time. I've decided to start treating my YouTube channel as a business, and I don't just mean making videos either. Let me explain. But before we dive into that, I'd like to talk about today's sponsor, BetterHelp. Life can be overwhelming and sometimes you need a little bit of extra support. That's where BetterHelp comes in. BetterHelp is the world's largest online therapy platform, making professional therapy accessible, affordable, and convenient. With BetterHelp, you can connect with a therapist from the comfort of your own home. Whether you're dealing with stress, anxiety, relationship issues, or if you just need someone to talk to, BetterHelp's network of experienced professionals is here to help. What I love about BetterHelp is its flexibility. You can communicate with your therapist through text, phone call, video call, whichever works best for you. And one of the best features about BetterHelp is that if the first therapist you get doesn't quite fit well with you, you can always switch to another one that you really connect with. As a software engineer, I know the importance of maintaining your mental health in high-stress environments. That's why I'm excited to share that BetterHelp is offering my viewers 10% off their first month of therapy. Just visit betterhelp.com/doseofdevi. And remember, investing in your mental health is one of the best decisions that you can ever make. Alright, so here's the plan. I'm working on starting a web development agency. Essentially, I'd be freelancing with extra steps, but I'd like to solve a prevalent problem while I do it. You know that paradoxical concept of not being able to get a job without experience, but not being able to get experience without a job? Well, what if I hired some of you guys to assist me on any contracts I receive? My business gets new customers, I get assistance, and you guys get experience to put on your resume. Of course, this is just an idea right now, but I'd like to make it come to life, so I'll be hashing out the details in the coming months. Until then, I'll be back to making more videos and working on building a customer base. In fact, I already have my first client. This is AF Castings, a modeling agency based in New York City. I don't know if you guys have ever been on any other modeling agency's website, but they usually don't appear very modern or performant, and sometimes these agencies don't have one at all. So the goal here is to build something functional, but still stylish and elegant. I don't currently have a designer at my disposal, but I think I did a pretty decent job without one. I'm thinking I'll probably make a dedicated video about this once it's done, and once I get my business set up, I could probably bring some of you guys on to help me maintain it. Let me know what you guys think of this idea, and if you have any other ideas or suggestions for me, let me know in the comments below. As for what I've been up to otherwise, the answer is getting punched in the face on Mondays and Wednesdays, and speaking at gala events for the Marcy Lab School. Stay tuned though, I'm planning to be a lot more consistent these days, so you can expect another video before November ends. Until next time.
This principle is deeply ingrained in the Marcy experience, empowering fellows to embrace their individuality and leverage it as a strength rather than viewing it as a potential limitation. With these developments comes the opportunity to achieve financial freedom, and for those of us that do, life looks completely different. We develop a sense of independence and empowerment, which is not without its responsibilities. For me, financial freedom has meant becoming a pillar of support in our community. Nearly 40% of Americans can't afford a $400 emergency expense. My family and friends aren't always exempt from that statistic, but I am, which usually means dinner's on me. As I stand here today, I'm not just a graduate of a program, I'm a testament to what's possible when opportunity meets determination. I'm living proof that with the right support and education, we could break cycles of economic disparity and create lasting change in our communities.